but I would catch bluegills here, and then at her pond I started catching bluegills, and then bam, as soon as I caught my first bass, I was like, oh, game on now. That's how I kind of became a multi-species fisherman. I had caught bluegill, I had caught catfish when I was younger, I had caught trout, and then I caught bass, and I was like, man, really my favorite thing is just to pull out a fish, and like when you're fighting it, say, I don't know what's on the end of this line. So what we're doing in this video today, I'm going to be talking about how I got into fishing, just telling a little story time. So story time, how did I get into fishing? I did not fish as a kid. My parents and family did not fish, so they never took me really. I remember once when I was a really young kid, 10, 9, something like that, my grandpa took me fishing for bluegills. It was the first time I'd ever done anything like that. And I was really young, and I was featured in like someone took a picture, and I was in the newspaper or whatever for the area in Florida where they had taken me, and there's a little picture of me and my grandpa, and I was catching fish. And I remember that, but I guess I came back and we didn't have any fishing rods, and my parents didn't fish or anything, so I guess I just kind of forgot about it. And then I remember one or two more times going catfishing with some kids in like around middle school, something like that. And I remember catching a couple, and we actually filleted them, which was a massacre because we didn't know what we were doing, but it worked, and it was delicious, and we cooked it up, and that was awesome. I think I bought some poles after that and wanted to get into it, but I never really had much luck or anything, and my parents never really, they didn't take me. Nothing against them at all. They just didn't, fishing wasn't their thing. So, you know, if I wanted to go, it'd be me by myself or me with some friends. And I just remember not really catching much ever and having cheap rods, not knowing what to do. So it wasn't until I was 24, I want to say 23. So it was about October, November of 2019. All right. So I'm 24. I was playing Red Dead Redemption fishing. As if you check my channel, I've got Red Dead Redemption fishing videos. This is the reason why I have those on there. I really liked something about it. It was awesome. The game is where you rob trains, you're an outlaw, you do stuff like that. And I played the campaign, I played the story, I did all that stuff. I robbed the trains, you know, I rode the horses, I did all the Wild West stuff. But for some reason, the hunting and fishing was my favorite part about it. And so one day, and honestly, I didn't even have my fishing license or anything. So I'm just gonna be straight up honest. I don't really know how that stuff worked. I think in the back of the mind, I knew I needed one of those. But we got a private lake here, and I don't even know if you need a fishing license to fish on this private lake. I've been told that you don't, but something in my mind tells me that it's in Missouri. You still need a license to fish it. I don't know. Either way, I went up there with just a random pole from my garage, hadn't used in years. It was already strung. I don't know if it already had one tied on or if I tied one on, but I just found a little tiny crappie jig, like one of those ones that's a tube jig, you know, looks like a little squid, a little tube jig. The wrong type of jig head on there and everything, but it was red and white. I put that on. It was, I think, November. It already started to get cold, but you know, you could still get into some good fish. And I went to the dam at the end of my street at my lake here. I brought my dog with me too. And I'll try to, if I can find the picture, I'll try to put the picture up on this video. But I caught a decent little bluegill. And my whole goal was the game Red Dead Redemption. I'd been catching fish and then eating them or selling them. So my whole goal was to go out there and catch some fish and actually keep them, not having any idea how to fillet a fish or anything like that. I was going to teach myself. But I caught that one bluegill, and it was actually a decent size. But me at the time had no idea what I was doing. I was like, oh, there's not much meat on this fish, so I threw it back. And probably a good thing I did, because my next cast I broke off on a rock. Of course, I had not brought a tackle box. I had not brought anything like that. So I was pretty much done for the day. I went back home. I got a tackle box and tried to tie some more stuff on, and I tried to go back up there, and I didn't catch anything. I didn't know what I was doing. It was pure blind luck that I caught the first one. So I was fascinated though. That had got me very interested into fishing. So at that point, I got some more fishing gear. I think I immediately bought the Ugly Stick GX2 combo, which I have multiple of now. And I went out to a couple different lakes. I would have my dad, when he had some free time, like, he likes to ride his bike and stuff like that. So I'd have him drive me somewhere that has bike trails, and I would just sit there and fish. And I went, like, all in with buying stuff. I bought these giant coolers. I was like, oh yeah, I bought these fillet knives, huge tackle box, like all this stuff, and a bunch of baits. Didn't spend as much time as I should have going online and looking up how to fish and how to fish for different species. I did some of that, but it was all overwhelming to me, and I just should have started with very basic videos. I think I was looking at videos for people who have been fishing for a long time, just looking how to up their game, and it was confusing me. So I went probably a solid month without catching a fish, and that's not me fishing every day. That's maybe me fishing once or twice a week, but I was trying, and I'd go out there at night on this lake not knowing what I was doing. I'd fish for catfish, and I didn't understand the concept that, you know, I had done when I was younger fishing for catfish. Put the bait out and let it sit. For some reason I'd get antsy, and after 5 minutes I'd start reeling the bait, start moving it, bring it in. I'd be like, oh, it's still on there, yeah. Wasn't catching nothing. Might have the wrong size hooks. I don't even know what I was using at the time. So about a month later, somebody told me that they had stocked rainbow trout. It was December. Had stocked rainbow trout in the lakes around me, around Kansas City. And I was like, what? Rainbow trout they're steelheads in the game, but rainbow trout are one of the fish in Red Dead Redemption. They're really fun to fight. They fight really hard. Awesome fish. So I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And, you know, by that time, by December, the fishing for me had just continued to be bad. I know last year, at the end of the year, I was definitely able to catch fish in December. So it was just lack of skill, lack of experience. So I actually went to James A. Reed Wildlife Area, which you'll see a video or two of me up there on my channel. I don't know if I've uploaded them yet, but I'll definitely upload some videos of me fishing there for sure. I at least have some trout footage there already, if I have not made that into a video yet. So I went to James A. Reed, and we were using little jigs. I was with my brother-in-law. He fishes at Roaring River all the time, so that's what he usually uses. So we were up there, and he caught a nice slab crappie, and I don't know why we didn't keep it. Because we were planning on keeping some trout, but we put the crappie back. I don't know. He caught it off the dock, little winter crappie. And then I caught like a 3-pound bass, like a nice one, and it flopped out before I could get a picture. And I was very upset because, you know, when you first start, you want to get a picture of your catches and stuff like that, whatever. But I caught a giant bass on that little jig, you know, something about just a small presentation. But that was cool. That was really exciting. And then we proceeded to go the next 2 hours, freezing cold, less than 30 degrees. He hates the cold, so he was just asking to leave the whole time. He caught a trout, though, right before we left. I didn't catch any rainbows. He caught a rainbow, and it was good size. So we left, went back to his house, knocked that thing on the head, cut it open, and, you know, he showed me, I believe, how to fillet it the first time. And after that, I went back out a bunch of times on my own. I think the first time I went out, I didn't bring rods out of the car. I just left my rods in the car. I started walking around the bank and asked everybody, man, how are you fishing for trout? What are you using? What's working? And I found these 2 guys who were using power bait, the same rig that I use now pretty much. And they were like, come on over, bring your stuff. We'll show you what to do. That was awesome. Those guys were super cool. And so they showed me what to do, and I caught 2 on my own that day, and then they ended up giving me a 3rd one, maybe 2 more, because, you know, they wanted to keep catching them, but they were gut hooking and swallowing the power bait, and they didn't want to throw those ones back, but the limit's 4, so they wanted to each, you know, be able to catch their 4, so they were only throwing the ones back that were definitely going to survive. They ended up giving me 1 or 2. So I had probably the best day of my life out there learning how to do that. And I don't fish the same way I did back then. Back then I used like a little bobber on my line, and I'd wait and see that thing move. Now I just kind of watch the rod tip. super awesome. So trout fishing is what got me into it. I went home and cut those open and cooked those up. I did a hack job compared to how my brother-in-law had taught me, but it just took experience to get better at filleting and cleaning fish. So I went back out there as many times as I could over that winter, and I probably caught 200 trout over that winter. As soon as I found that they had stocked a lake 10 minutes from my house here, I just started to go into that one too instead. I would get up before college. I would go out there at 5 a.m. and I would catch my limit, and I would come back and put them on the porch, which it's freezing cold. The meat will stay fine all day. You just take the guts out of them. And I would just put them on my porch. And then after college, I'd come back and, cut them open and either cook them up or put them in the freezer for later. So I just had a great time that winter catching all those things. So I caught a whole bunch of trout that winter. And trout's really what got me into it. As soon as it started getting warm, I started fishing here at my lake, and then I also started fishing my sister's pond. She had a pond in her property. She had no idea. She's like, I don't know if there's fish in it. I said, I'll find out for you. So I started fishing both those places, and I used everything. I didn't know what I was doing at first. I used a lot of jigs. I used worms. I used soft plastics, some unorthodox methods. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I would catch bluegills here, and then at her pond, I started catching bluegills, and then bam, as soon as I caught my first bass, I was like, oh, game on now. That's how I kind of became a multi-species fisherman. I had caught bluegill, I had caught catfish when I was younger, I had caught trout, and then I caught bass, and I was like, man, really my favorite thing is just to pull out a fish, and like when you're fighting it, say, I don't know what's on the end of this line, which is awesome when you're using jigs, you're using worms in like or spinners in like creeks and stuff. You'll have no idea what you're hooking up with half the time, which is awesome. So that's how I started fishing. That's how I got into it. It was something about that Red Dead Redemption fishing game that really made fishing seem so awesome to me. And so I just said screw it and just went out there and actually tried it myself. Was not an instant success, took a lot of grinding, but for some reason, just catching that one bluegill and playing the video game, something about it was awesome to me and fascinating. So I just really couldn't get the fishing thing out of my head. So I just kept going out there until I finally figured it out. And started with rainbow trout, and then bluegills, moved to bass, and then now at the end of 2020, I think I caught maybe 4,700 fish in 2020. I logged them all on Fishbrain. But yeah, I caught like 4,700 fish in 2020. I haven't even logged all of mine yet. And 30 different species. So I had an absolutely amazing first year. If you are watching this and you don't fish, get out there and try it. It's amazing. But I'm sure if you're watching this, you probably fish because this is a fishing channel. So I just want to say, get out there and have good luck on the water next time you fish. Hopefully you have fishable water. Mine's all frozen right now, but not thick enough to walk on. But yeah, I love fishing. Can't wait until the spring. It's going to get awesome. I'm going to be putting videos up as much as I can. So make sure you hit the like button on this video. Make sure you subscribe and ring the bell, and make sure you're getting all my notifications. So if I have giveaways, if I have new fishing videos, stuff like that, you guys can see it. Thanks for listening to my little story here. Thank you guys. Have a great day. SunfishKing out.